Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Wait Just an Infosec. You do have the hostess with the mostest, Rich Greene, today to kind of give us a really look into unconventional ways somebody might find themselves getting involved in cybersecurity. You know, when we look at what somebody might originally do, you know, taking a certain entry level position, kind of working their way up, we're going to kind of look at it from a different route. I am kind of curious, though, before we really jump into everything, where everybody's from. I know for me, it's a quite chilly morning here in North Carolina. We're slowly creeping up to 60 degrees. It's probably somewhere 12, 13 Celsius for those. Anna, welcome. Welcome. Thank you for joining from Washington. I was just there this past weekend. It was rainy on me. We have India, Slovakia. Sorry, that's awesome. So many great places. Please just jump in there. Tell me where you're from. I am curious. Are you joining us early in the morning, in the middle of the day, maybe late at night? I always find it interesting when I'm talking to some people and they're like, yeah, it's 9 o'clock at night where I'm at. And it's just kind of wild. We have somebody from Germany, Green Bay, Maryland, Melbourne. Oh, I love it. I really do honestly love just the global reach that we have on these. Every Tuesday, we get to get together and just kind of discuss things, just be kind of a little happy family around the dinner table for a little bit. And I think it's phenomenal. We have Canada, Trinidad, the UK. I want to go visit there next year, I think. Nigeria, Arlington, Texas. Oh, my Lord. There's so many coming through. Kuwait. Spent a lot of time there, Waleed, in Kuwait myself. Where we got Bahrain, Colorado. Colorado's a great place. We need to go skiing some more often, honestly. But yeah, we really do have a great show today. I honestly believe we do. We have some Pat Weiler be on with us. The CEO and founder of Green Hat Solutions. Tony LeVary will be on with us today, kind of going over, again, just how they journeyed into this. And what I'd really like to do is, at one point, I'm going to bring it up, and I'd like to know how you all kind of got started in cybersecurity. Or for those that haven't really made that journey yet, what's stopping you from taking that journey? We got Ontario, Canada, 6 degrees Celsius, 42. When I woke up, it was 42. Memphis, Tennessee. I'll be in Tennessee next January for a little bit. What else we got here? 10 a.m. Wales, UK, Toronto, more from Colorado, the Netherlands. There are so many great people here today with us. I am so excited. I am so excited. Please make sure, if you're joining, comment away, ask questions. For those that have been with me or been on a show with me before, just know that I'm definitely very interactive. I don't want to just talk to everybody for an hour. I would like to hear what you all have to say. Florida, my home state, born in Orlando, Florida myself, New York. I want to visit all these places that everybody's joining me from. Alabama. Oh, I love it. So really, you notice we have literally everybody here with us. Virginia's saying multitasking here. AWS Space Industry event. Ed, thank you for joining us. That's awesome. I was at the Amazon thing. That's why I was up in DC for this past weekend. That is awesome. I love it. This is great. What I would like to do is I'm going to go ahead and send it forward to Michelle Peterson so she can kind of give us the news bites for the day.
Thanks, Rich. I appreciate it. So good morning, everyone. I'm editorial contributor with SANS, Michelle Peterson, and I'm here with your weekly news bites on Wait Just an Infosec. Today, I'm just going to take you through a quick and dirty rundown of the headlines in the cybersecurity space, and I'm just going to jump right in. So first up, let's see. We just got news that the Danish cybersecurity organization SectorCert, there you go, released a report detailing that there were more than 20 critical infrastructure organizations that were targeted in a cyber attack starting in May of this year. And they were carried out through known vulnerabilities in Zyxel? I actually don't know how to pronounce that. Zyxel firewalls, we'll go with that. In other news, in other infrastructure news, we have Australian ports are recovering from a cyber attack. This affected ports in Brisbane, Fremantle, Melbourne, and Sydney. And apparently approximately 40% of the freight that goes in and out of Australia are handled through those 4 ports, and they were all taken offline, all their systems. And as of yesterday, they are operating normally. So good news there. Let's see, other news, other headlines. The state of Maine discloses it was affected by the Move It breach, yet another victim of this breach that has been impacting so many organizations over the last several months. In healthcare news, we have news that the threat actors are breaching healthcare organizations through Screen Connect remote access tool. That is something to be on the lookout for. And let's see, I have a couple of other interesting ones dealing with ransomware. In Ohio, the Ohio city of Huber Heights, on Sunday, November 12th, they sent a notification to the residents that they were recovering from a ransomware attack. Ransomware persists. It's still a huge problem, and it's I feel like nobody's really immune. As the next and final story I have is China's ICBC bank was hit with ransomware as well. And it targeted, ICBC stands for the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. And it was last week, and it disrupted financial services at their institutions around the world. All right, I think that about does it for our News Bites this week. Do not forget to subscribe to the twice weekly News Bites newsletter for more news and expert commentary delivered straight to your inbox. And you can subscribe at sands.org/newsbites. Rich, I will send it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. As always, as we see, there's this, you really can't, turn on your phone, go to Google or newspaper, if you still get newspapers, and just see something not related to cybersecurity just in the world, be it ransomware or Move It or whatever the case may be. It's constantly ever evolving threats that exist everywhere, and it is absolutely wild. What I did want to take really is a little bit of time. I wanted to kind of give a question for those that are going to join us today, question of the week. And really that question is, what do you believe is or was your biggest hurdle breaking into cybersecurity or IT? Right? It's not just cybersecurity. We're also talking about, information technology, because we're kind of all together in a nice harmonious family. But if you could head over to Slido, pop in that number right there and just show us, 1, 2 words, kind of what that was. If you had none, you had none. I know for me personally, as I was kind of transitioning out of the military, my biggest fear really kind of resided around, I've done a lot of great things. I've physically done them, and I've done great things for the country, but I had no certifications, no backing, no kind of thing to say, hey, I actually know what I'm doing. And that was honestly a big fear for me, where I was honestly going to go and become a middle school teacher, because that's also one of the amazing things I do. We're going to leave this up here for a little bit, because I do want to make sure we get everybody over there. Let us know what's going on so we can talk about it. No idea where to start. That's one of my absolute favorite things to discuss across the board, is really helping people, lack of contacts. And this is what this is for, money. This is the things that we want to talk about. Keep on sending them up, keep on putting them up there so we can get them on there. Hop over to Slido and get that. The other thing I want to talk about really quick is CDI. Oh man, the Cyber Defense Initiative by SANS, one of the largest events we do yearly, is coming up December 11th to the 16th. We're going to get together. I'm going to be there. If you're on this right now and you're joining us, and if you're posting, no idea where to start, hit me up on LinkedIn. Say, hey, Rich, I'm going to be at DC that week. Do you think we can grab a cup of coffee? I'm probably going to tell you absolutely yes, we can. And we're going to sit down and we're going to chit chat about kind of where you're at. And I would absolutely love it to talk to anybody that has an issue with it. But CDI is going to be absolutely amazing. I can feel it in my bones. Experience, gatekeepers, culture, mindset, yet exposed. Might have to ask about that one for a little bit more clarification. Care about the future, no idea where to start. Developed, Pat's gonna have a lot of great things on these: years, skills, cyber. Okay, yeah, that works. Let's see what we got out here. Apply education, certification, relevant jobs. Afraid I'm not technical enough. Yeah, these are all great things that we kind of want to keep on seeing. So why we keep on going, why we're talking, please feel free to head over to slido.com, put that in there and go with it. I do think we have a video for you for CDI potentially. If we look at a lot of the subtitles that were kind of coming up there, talking about networking with instructors and peers, a lot of the things that I was seeing show up on our Slido question of the week, you'll notice that a lot of that kind of can be accomplished inside of that. And I think that's really amazing. That's why I really do enjoy the events. What I wanted to do now, though, is I wanted to bring on the guests that I promised you were going to be here with me. And Tony, two amazing people. Hey, Pat. Hey, Tony.
Hey, good morning. How are you, Rich?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Fantastic. It's kind of cold. I was raking leaves doing this, and then I go back to raking leaves.
That is not fun at all. Tony, thank you for joining us as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Hi
Yes.
to everybody around the world. It's awesome to see the participation from around the globe.
It is so amazing. Every Tuesday we hop on here and just kind of see it really does span. I'm gonna start putting little thumbtacks on the globe just so I can see where everybody joins us every Tuesday.
Yeah, that's
So-
a good idea.
As I mentioned at the beginning, the whole reason I really kind of concocted this whole idea was just to show people and really discuss the other ways that somebody can really find themselves within cybersecurity or IT or really anywhere in that sector, as Pat mentioned earlier. Just it's a very vast field. So if you wouldn't mind, Pat, we can go ahead and start with you. Kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Oh, wow. Well, thanks for having me on. First of all, it's like Tony said, it's really cool to have such a wide audience all over the world. Quick note on me. I retired back in 2016. It seems like forever ago now. But I was like you, Rich. I was in the Army for 20 years, and 11 out of those years I did in special operations. So my career took a drastic change upon retirement. I started getting into cybersecurity in a very unorthodox way. I learned how to attack machines before I actually learned how to build and defend machines. And so, long story short, was a big part of the developing a cybersecurity course while I was in. And then I got out and I faced the same problem you did, Rich. And it's kind of funny looking at the word cloud that you put up. I had all of those problems. Didn't know what to do. Didn't know what cert should I get, what degree I should get. It was very confusing. So what I did is I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start my own company, and I certified myself. It sounds funny, but that was based on my experience of working with people that a lot of the certs that I ran into that people had. The cert was one thing and their ability to perform was another thing. And so I chose to walk my own path and start my own business in cybersecurity. And it's gone very well so far. so far. It's been going for 7 years.
No, I absolutely. We're going to come back onto that because I've actually had the privilege of working with Pat on some of his community endeavors that he does that I think is, or again, one of the reasons I wanted this is to show not only the unconventional way to enter this field, but the things that you are all doing for that community around you with that information, which I think is awesome. Tony, we're coming to you next. We would love for you to kind of just shed some light on who is Tony.
Yeah, so much like Pat, with a few exceptions, I did 21 years in the Army. We actually met at a unit that was being established about 12 years ago, where I'm going to brag on Pat a little bit here, where they sought him out to stand up their cyber non-standard comms capability. And that's where I first had my first experiences with the impacts of, vulnerable security and just coming up with some good TTPs for protecting myself online, and also which impacts later, like in person. I'm a mother, a wife. My husband and I both are Army. And yeah, so my first formalized training in this was actually with you, Rich, 3 years ago when we did the course we did out at Campbell. And since then, it's piqued my interest to a point that I want to incorporate what I've learned in that course and in my experiences in some of the initiatives that I'm taking on as I also transition from the military.
I'm so excited about getting into some of those stories. Absolutely. And you are right. So I had the absolute privilege of being introduced to Tony through Pat. Pat and I both worked together as instructors for the course that she referenced, Brighton. Great course. Is really kind of cyber defense for all of our people. Defense to offense is what we looked at. And it was an absolute pleasure. Pat, as you mentioned earlier, you had all of those kind of concerns as you were getting out. If there was one of those you can say was kind of the pinnacle, like the absolute biggest fear, kind of taking that plunge and being like, you know what, the Army's ending, my cyber career starting, or I want it to start. Where really kind of you think was that just the biggest one that just kind of sat in your stomach the most over all the other ones?
Good question. So to be clear, the problems haven't stopped and the concerns haven't stopped. So they're an ongoing thing 7 years after retirement. I think one of my biggest things was I had a problem with testing. If you put me in a testing environment, I choke 100% of the time. I can perform in front of you. I can do things. Rich, you've seen me teach. Tony, so have you. When it comes time to doing something and performing even live, I can do it. But if you put me in front of a computer or you put a paper in front of me and tell me to fill out, a multiple choice, I will bomb it every time. So that became my first hurdle was, okay, I did a few certs. I got A+, N+, Linux Plus, even certified ethical hacker. And then it became unrealistic for me because there was a point where if you had the certifications, you were good forever. And then you had to recertify every 3 years. So not only did it become retaking a test, but it also became a financial issue. So now I had to pay money and I had to restudy and suck at tests. So the thing that stayed consistent was Pat sucks at taking tests. So that was the biggest challenge.
Every morning I go to take that test, the pit in my stomach, even like I said, even I've taken so many certifications, it's just ever biting me. It's nervous. I can have smoked the practice test. I feel confident. I know the material. And then I sit down and I log in and it's like, oh, what's my name again? I forgot it. I don't like this at all. But it's no.
You're giving me PTSD from Brighton.
It's scary. Yeah. It is. And then, people don't realize that you have the time limit. It's one thing to just take a test with no time limit. You have the ability to kind of work yourself through it. But when you throw that time factor on there, it's like, oh, I'm going to do this. And this only has a little bit of time. And like they say, time takes forever. Just do a plank. And it's like the longest 1 minute of your life. What about you though, Tony? What was your biggest, or you're transitioning now? Like, what is your kind of biggest fear as it goes?
Yeah, my biggest fear is, well, for one, I don't know what I want to do when I get out, and I'm still in the fact-finding phase. And so for me, I think I'm more of a jack of all trades than anything. And it feels a little bit late to say, hey, I want to make cybersecurity my niche, and then kind of start all over in a second career. So for me right now, the challenge is trying to find a career path that incorporates all my skills, cybersecurity being one of those skills, and lets me do that day to day, and gives me purpose. That's where I really want to be. I want to find something that feels purposeful and keeps me, the job satisfaction there. And that's been kind of my biggest hurdle right now. So there's jobs that are either solely in cybersecurity, where you have to be like what you all are describing, like certified, maintain those certifications, have so much experience where I do not have it, or it doesn't exist in the role at all. And that's kind of been my struggle.
No, again, it's that fear. As Pat mentioned earlier, it's just the domain is so vast and so wide. You can have somebody like, they love the cyber defense, they love building infrastructure and securing infrastructure and making sure that everybody is just kind of secure in their own ways. And then you have the people that are like, I like to break things. I like to test all the ways that I can break something. You have the offense, and then exactly, Pat down there. And then you have the people that are like, hey, I kind of want to sit back here, on the incident response side. And I saw you try to protect it and you try to break it. Now I kind of want to deduce what happened there in the middle. And there's this, management and ICS, there's just so many different avenues you can find yourself in. And it's a daunting task, as we had on that word cloud. Pat, what do you think one of the biggest thing is, or one of the biggest fulfillments you have? I know what I've done with you is, but like the best way for you to get back to community for you, really kind of what is that so far?
Oh, wow. That's an easy question. So this was about 3 years ago. I started a teen cyber camp in Moore County, North Carolina. And this was based on an earlier effort when I was in the Army. I had another friend that she started a cybersecurity camp. And so when I started my business, I decided to start the same thing, because I knew when I grew up, many, many moons ago, there wasn't a lot of training available for teenagers. The school system, they had what they had, but it wasn't very advanced. And so what I wanted to do was offer teenagers the kind of like an ability to explore their techno lust, if they liked drones, if they liked coding, if they liked Linux, if they liked building computers. And then I threw it all into a camp. And so kind of like you, Rich, I think, teaching is one of my biggest passions that I have with cybersecurity. It's also a great way to keep me sharp, because when you're on the podium, your word is kind of like everyone holds you to it, and your word is gospel. So
no, absolutely. I agree. I think for me, as I transition, is like, I love being an instructor. I think kind of imparting knowledge on people that just don't have it is just like one of the best feelings you can kind of have, at least for me. And I really wanted to be a good teacher. I was going to be a middle school teacher. I was going to teach history just because it's my favorite subject. And it's, again, just kind of imparting kind of forever. And then getting the opportunity to work with you in the camp. It's exciting to kind of be up there and you say something, you just see the light bulbs go off in kids' eyes. You're like,
great.
Oh,
It's
that's
great
awesome.
feeling.
It's like, oh, and then when you're done, they just thank you for that. I never thought of it this way. That was really great. It's just a super fulfilling experience. Tony, back to you. Kind of, for you, what is the best way you've kind of seen to give back to your community you've done so far, using the skills you've kind of accrued over the years?
Yeah. So for like on the active side, we have woven in the skills that I took away from the course that you guys taught in day-to-day ops. They help to mostly on the defensive posture of our forces, but then further, we work with partner nations and governments who we can then carry on these practices too, just for some basic security and vulnerability, addressing vulnerabilities. That's where we've used it currently. And then where I would like to take this in the future is you and I had spoken previously about anti-human trafficking initiatives that I wanted to start volunteering for, which I have in some capacity, but just because of my military obligations, I haven't been able to wholeheartedly commit just yet. But I'd like to take some of the things that I've learned here for offensive and defensive purposes. One would be to protect the assets that we're allocating to go target these predators, so that those, operatives per se can continue to operate and remain safe and not become a target themselves. And then the second thing is defending and protecting the data that is aggregated as target packets are built against these predators, because then if once that data is vulnerable, it impacts prosecution of those predators. So that's kind of where I wanted to take it on my transition out of the military. And then the other way that I have used it and anticipated continuing to use it is with vulnerability assessments and pen testing, but not cyber pen testing, the traditional path that, I didn't want to bring that up if you don't, want to talk about traditional paths. What I'm talking about is, so I've done physical security penetration testing, where we demonstrate how with some leveraging the human element, we can break in or penetrate a physical building infrastructure entity, and then just gaining access to devices, servers, or even letting me break things in there and find out what the IP address of any device in the building is, and then walking the client through what a black hatter or a negative actor can do with that information, and showing them the devastating impacts that it can have on their organization. That's what I've been doing, and then what I would like to do upon transition in some form or fashion.
I love it. And don't feel bad. The whole penetration side, it was when I retired, I started, I was like, oh, I'm going to be like Pat, but not as successful as Pat. I want to make my own company. And that's what kind of created Sith too.
Right.
But it was really the same way, but I wanted to kind of turn, vulnerability assessments and penetration testing, more of the physical side, to small businesses, because let's be honest, Joe and Ma's Diner can't afford, a multi-$1,000 kind of fee to bring somebody in to do that. It doesn't take me long on one person, and I have the skills to do it. And that's
Right.
a way that I can give back to the community, was really kind of, hey, let me do this for you, show you how you can be, protected. Because I think, Pat, you had done the research when we were talking about it before, was the odds of a small business going under if they get attacked is somewhere in like the 80%. Pat, you have to correct me there, but it's somewhere in the high 80-85% mark if an SBA is hit by a cybercrime.
That's true. Yeah, I think the statistics are 80% of small businesses or startups, they fail within the first 3 years, and then after that, the next marker is 5 years. 60% of those businesses will fail. I think those are pretty accurate. But once I got to 7 years, I stopped paying attention to those statistics because I'm like, whoo, all right, we're good. Next hurdle.
No, I absolutely love it. So what is the envisions for Pat and Green Hat Solutions kind of going forward? What does that look like for you?
You're bringing back up the new struggle. So
yeah,
a lot of the time. So when I first got out and retired, I did a lot of government contract work, and for reasons that are my own, I'm trying to transition completely away from doing the work that I did into more commercial sector work, and it's because of the skills that I developed in the military, which was primarily breaking into networks, doing wireless penetration testing, stuff like that. What that really transitioned into was, I know how to break into these networks. Let me go and protect the little guys, the small businesses, kind of like the mom and pop shops that don't budget for IT security. They don't have dedicated cybersecurity personnel on staff. And let me make something that is affordable, transparent, and tailored to the little guy. And so I've developed a new service. It's shameless plug. It's called Co-Managed Systems Administration, and all it is it's designed to build up and protect those little businesses. Because if you think about it, small business, they make up 60% of the U.S. economy, and none of them can afford to get hacked. And if they do, they wind up going out of business within 6 months. So that was kind of like, that was the motivation behind me standing up a new service. And plus the volatility of doing government work, we're all facing our own struggles with, grocery bills and stuff like that. Budgets are tightening. So I figured, let's stop focusing on the government customer, which is this big, and go to the commercial sector, which has a lot more opportunity.
As always, Pat, you're doing the admirable thing, looking out for the small person. And
I
love
the process, but it's working.
No, I absolutely love it. And Tony, I'm not going to skip you on this question because you already showed us what's future version for Tony, but you do have to remind me when we're done. I definitely want to put you in contact with Heather Mahalik, who I think you two would have a lot of synergies when it comes to your initiatives on the anti-human trafficking side. I think there's a lot of synergy there. What I did want to do, though, is I want to kind of bring up our word cloud again so we can kind of take a look at what all those people were kind of mentioning that were their big hurdles kind of entering cybersecurity, so we can kind of really discuss those for a little bit. And the way, of course, it works, word cloud, the biggest words are the most put in here options. So we have money. I'm pretty sure they're talking about certifications. And as Pat mentioned earlier, just kind of the budgeting there. I know from my perspective, I look at it when I look at money. If we're talking about money pursuing certifications and training, there are definitely a ton of avenues out there that can kind of offset that. If you look at SANS, we have the academies, we have the scholarships, we have the .edu. There's a ton of ways to pursue training. You just really kind of have to just dig a little deeper. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me so I can kind of help on that. Technical and skills and experience, I think, is all three of the things that we kind of mentioned in some collaboration or some kind of way. I was getting out and I had physical hands-on skills, but I had the experience, but I didn't have the certification to say I had experience. And then we have, again, the technical. If you have all the certifications, you don't have the on-hand keyboard. So what do you all think about these? Do these kind of align with some of you?
I'd like to take this first and give the Army a shameless plug because, no, seriously, for those in the audience who are young enough and U.S. citizens, we have a new MOS that is cyber related. And then there are all these incentives to certify you in actual certifications through the Army Cool process. And that's a newer thing since I've been in. So that addresses the money, the technical stuff, the skills, and the cyber aspect. And then for everyone else, like as I'm transitioning, I'm learning of grants and things like that for specifically women in business. So I would do searches on that depending on your circumstances and see what's out there to help enable you in getting these certifications if that is the path you want to choose. And then, okay, I see being a female coming up there. It's funny because I've been doing a lot of fact finding as I'm on my way out. And most people that I've spoken with tell me there's a huge incentive to being a woman because now we have more emphasis on DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, where there are hiring requirements or, I hate to say quotas, but yes, quotas for that initiative, where being a female actually helps you at least get your feet in the door, right? And then you have to do the rest. You have to prove it through your work ethic, your ambition, and your initiative. But I mean, that's kind of the easy part to me. It's just getting the foot in the door. That's really seems to be hard for some people. So yeah.
No, absolutely. And I want to I'm going to drop the link in there for it. We see this as a phenomenal YCs, depending on how you pronounce it. Women in Cybersecurity is a phenomenal nonprofit organization that really does kind of do, as you said, it provides the opportunities for, what we'll say unmarginalized persons to kind of enter the workforce when there is kind of that stigma or that stigmata where, being a female kind of enters cybersecurity. Absolutely. And I know I saw another one on there that was overcoming the imposter syndrome. I can promise you, I don't think it ever goes away. Every single time somebody asks me to do something, I'm like, wow, I can't believe, am I really the one that's getting ready to do this? And it's overcoming imposter syndrome is a difficult one to kind of go over. What about you, Pat, taking a look at this? Or anything you can kind of explain or provide on there for us?
So the money thing is that's really a big thing for me, and I think with money, it's you really have to go into number one. How do you learn? Are you or do you like to learn by reading? Do you like to learn by watching videos, or are you a kinesthetic learner? Learn by doing. I'm a combination of all three. A good instance or a good example that I found is there's so many resources. I think that one of the problems now has become information saturation. There's so much that people don't know where to look. Um, one of a good example. I mean, it's not really cybersecurity, but I passed and got my Part 107 drone license just by watching YouTube videos and passed the test. So with cybersecurity, there's a lot of good resources out there that are free. There's software that's free. There's you can build your lab for free. There's people that even teach you how to build a lab, and it's just really a matter of now. Granted, some things are free, other things will cost you money. So um, I would like to entertain more questions after this show to help people kind of address the money thing, because I face that problem too. I still do, and I think it's just a matter of where to look and how to look. Sometimes you have to ask the right question to get the right answer.
No, absolutely. And I love the point you made about information saturation. I do think, if you were to go on Google and type in needing help in cybersecurity, you're probably going to get just thousands of links that kind of pop up, and trying to weed through those for credible sources to kind of help you pursue your goals that is a thing that exists out there. And that's pretty wild. There was another one on there I thought was interpersonal skills. And I wasn't sure if they were referencing not having interpersonal skills or needing or just not good ones. I will say cybersecurity is still one of those things where you don't have to have the best interpersonal skills to be successful. I've worked with a lot of people that they're great on a keyboard and they're phenomenal, and that's fine. But also there's tons, again, training on kind of developing those interpersonal skills. And just, as Pat again said, YouTube is a phenomenal source of information. Just kind of watching, how to develop those soft skills. We did a talk a couple months ago, a coworker of mine, Stacy Dunn, and it was kind of referencing, breaking the barriers, getting into cybersecurity, kind of, breaking down that wall. Entry requirements, as we saw, was on there being kind of too much. Experience for entry roles. You would find job entry roles where, hey, it's a brand new entry level position, it's a level 1, and they want you to have your CISSP. And it's like, that's pretty far from entry level. Like, that's a minimum of 5 years experience in cybersecurity in like 8 different domains. So it is definitely a hurdle to get into, absolutely sure. But as you said, Pat, I would love to really kind of get people on, and I know I'm going to kind of do that after moving into 2024. Is I'm going to bring up my YouTube channel, and we're going to kind of discuss all the entry to cybersecurity things. And I'm going to try to bring it to a level where it's not information saturation. It's kind of, hey, here's some solid sources, cut out some of the guesswork for you, and just kind of propel you through, really kind of be a digital mentee to people that need, or mentor to people that need one. And I think it's going to be awesome.
Rich, if you don't mind, there's one thing I actually want to point out in reference to the certifications, because one of the things I'm trying to do, especially for veterans getting out, one initiative I plan on doing is those that do get out and are looking to get certifications. I'm starting up kind of like a, what do you call it? Like an internship program, in which if you're chasing a certification, I'm looking to pay for that certification if you pass. And provided there's like a little internship with my company. So it's something I'm working on doing, but I think providing that opportunity, so it kind of addresses the money issue as well. So because certifications are not cheap. Not one certification I've seen is free yet.
But Tony, you were going to mention something as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the people with interpersonal skills as a concern, I was going to drop a list of links to books or YouTube tutorials that I have found helpful, and just for those who are interested. And then, of course, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to have a chat with anybody who just wants to work on that. That's kind of my vibe.
No, again, hopefully people reach out to you. That's my biggest thing. again, as I think I like the most about these Tuesday mornings is just brings people together, because prior to this morning, somebody that did say, hey, I have interpersonal issues. I just know how to, take that or tackle that. Now I've been introduced to you, Tony, who can hopefully help them be successful and move and do great things, which is an amazing time. We did have a question, and Pat, I think it might not align to you completely, but it seems somebody that did something wants to take it. April Redmond said, I've been looking for a full-time job in cybersecurity. I have done work such as making custom cybersecurity tools. What do I need to do to make this a full-time job?
So she likes to develop and build tools. First, well, who's the tool designed for? You really have to see what your target audience is. If your target audience is meant for big business, then this is it's a multifaceted answer. It's, again, identify who your target audience is for your product. And again, who's it designed for? Big business, small business. And then it's really just getting out there and kind of networking that capability. And also don't forget to, be careful with who you talk to, because some people have their own interests in mind.
Love it. And Pat, you seem to get all the questions now. We had somebody else reach out to you, mentioning or asking, I believe in small business cybersecurity training. What was your pitch to get small businesses to sign on to your product spec?
Oh, wow. It's funny you mentioned that, because I have my little speech, my little elevator pitch right here. I'm getting ready to do an entrepreneurial summit this evening in front of hundreds of small business owners and CEOs to pitch this new idea called co-managed systems administration. So does it work? I don't know. I'll let you know. I'll put it on LinkedIn or something. If I bomb it, I won't post anything. No, but what did I do? Let me see, to pitch. It's really, okay, so whenever you're pitching anything, as far as a capability or anything like that, or skill, one thing that I've had the hardest time doing is believing in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to have that confidence in yourself, because you are your own worst critic. You will sharpshoot yourself to death. You hear things about like paralysis by analysis, overthinking it. And eventually you just have to step forward and say, I'm just going to take this leap of faith and give it everything I got. So I think that's the best answer I can give.
I think it's a pretty solid answer myself. No, I love it. We actually have some really good questions coming along now, which is good. Is there an age limit to doing internships? I personally don't think I've ever seen any. I mean, I know typically what people kind of associate in their mind internships is, people taking the summer off of college and kind of transferring there. But I mean, the military has their skill-based program, which is definitely for older individuals retiring and kind of moving over that way. So I don't think there is. I don't really think there is an age.
I don't think so. I think it's more of a matter of like, again, believe in yourself, and what do you bring to the table? Find your skills, capitalize on your skills, hone your skills, and just believe in yourself.
A comment I find myself saying quite often is, I just need to instill as much confidence in them as I have in myself. And that's really kind of how I tackle literally every single situation that comes up. Absolutely. There seems to be a lot more resources for vets and civilians. Where do civilians get or find resources? I will dig through and kind of find some. Of course, Pat, Tony, and I all transitioned from the military, so it's a little bit easier for finding those. I could do the shameless plug. SANS.org/resources has a ton of resources. Pat had mentioned you can head to Green Hat Solutions, just kind of reach out to Pat. He at least can try to find those resources for you. They're definitely a plenty. It's just kind of narrowing those down and finding out where we can get the ones that make sense for you. Because again, it's just really kind of understanding what you want to do and moving over. And we had so many other good questions as we kind of wrap up the time, unfortunately. But I do want to get to those. Jacqueline, I have a blog coming out soon that will kind of help you on the difference between pen testing and back-end development. But really kind of what I want to do is just give a huge thanks to Pat and Tony for joining me on this Tuesday to kind of give your insights on everything. It has been an absolute pleasure from me to you.
Pleasure was all mine. Thanks, Rich. Good to see you again, Tony.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, guys. It was nice catching up. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to what comes of this chat.
I absolutely love it. Again, thank you. What we will do now is I will introduce Lee Kim, who is an absolutely amazing person who wants to come on here and kind of talk to us about new AI initiatives that are coming out. And Lee, it's all yours.
Hey, thanks, Rich, and thank you for having me here. I greatly appreciate it. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world. My name is Lee Kim. I am an attorney by trade, but I also am an industry SME for cyber and AI. That said, I just wanted to give a top-level overview in terms of what is happening in regard to the world of AI. I think the most significant development in recent times has been the various governmental / governing body activities around AI. And by that, I mean the Biden executive order on AI was tremendous. It was a great read. But my read of the Biden executive order is that it's highly likely that NIST will provide a much more dominant role, both in terms of cybersecurity as well as privacy, but also artificial intelligence. In fact, NIST serves as the advisor to the White House as it relates to regulation and serves a pivotal role in terms of harmonizing those things. And I think that it'll be very, very interesting to see what the companion guidance will be issued in light of the NIST AI risk management framework that's already out. The EO called for a companion guidance from NIST as to how to manage risk regarding AI. And I'm not going to reveal the company name here, but this is actually a ballot from a company as to how you want to vote with the board or against the board. And as to matters involving artificial intelligence, one line item actually says, and this is for a vote that will happen in this quarter, it says, are you for or against a report on AI misinformation and disinformation? And of course, this certain entity says, we recommend against this option. So I think that we're certainly in a day and age where companies realize that to appease shareholders and perhaps to have more profit, the more oversight they may have may, at least arguably, hinder innovation. Again, I have no insights as to what the intent of this company was or wasn't, but that's a bit chilling in terms of a proposal, I feel. And I feel as a result, in light of whether it's elections or other things, it's going to be a free-for-all. How many of us will actually push back against companies that are innovating? Will we have challenges against agencies that are perhaps over-regulating? There are some that may argue in light of the SEC cybersecurity disclosure rules that SEC is clamping down pretty hard. And certainly in terms of the litigation that's in the news, it's safe to say that certain companies that have been recently sued in the SEC and that have been in the headlines, they are lawyering up and they are saying game on, as well as various CISOs that are now represented by counsel. But that aside, I also wanted to take a step back and say I had the recent experience of being in Portugal, speaking on the topic of AI, as well as the metaverse and things of that sort. And it's safe to say that Europe appears to be very forward-looking as it relates to artificial intelligence. In fact, many European countries have been already legislating on that and very keen on ensuring that, for example, AI algorithms are developed with the least amount of bias as possible to ensure that they're trained appropriately, to ensure that they're tested appropriately, to ensure that there's relatively little adverse outcomes in terms of discrimination or bias that can sometimes hurt people. In fact, there have been recent publications by researchers that have said that unfortunately in the field of healthcare, and my primary field is healthcare, unfortunately AI can be used at times depending upon what the bolus of data is. If there's a certain patient or group of patients that are from a minority group, and if the AI doesn't know about it, they may fail to, for example, underdiagnose things such as colon cancer or sickle cell anemia or other things, which I think is tragic because every person, frankly, deserves dignity as well as equal health care as well. And I just really think that one of the things that we have to think about as citizens of the world, as developers, etc., is can we, as we have in terms of cybersecurity, open up those information sharing channels as it relates to artificial intelligence and figure out how we could be more responsible, more ethical, etc. But that aside, I did want to say that on a related note, the Partnership for AI, which has been a going concern since 2016, has several work streams. And I participate with some of them, but I think that that's a great example of a public-private partnership in which entities and citizens all around the world, as well as companies, are engaging to have their voice as to the development of AI and what kind of standards we put in place. As an example, for those of you that may be in the media and entertainment industry, one of the things that's currently being discussed is the extent to which we have a synthetic personality delivering to the news. And in that respect, do we just simply disclose to individuals, this is not a real person, this is an AI entity that's delivering to you the news, and there you go, and here are the caveats and the wherefores, therefores, and here's the news. Well, supposedly, some consumers have said, we aren't necessarily caring about whether it's an individual or a machine delivering us the news, just as long as we have that. And extrapolating that concern as well, we all know that the SAG-AFTRA strike has ended and that there are some amicable resolutions. But I, as a person that's in the industry myself, as I do some acting, I really am concerned about the extent to which synthetic identities will overtake some people's livelihood and creativity as well as innovation. That said, the number one concern that I found as a consultant and SME in the industry is, in terms of AI, that is governance. And from a cybersecurity perspective, I am here to say that the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0 is expected to be finalized in the first quarter, at least early 2024, the calendar year. So we anticipate that soon. And it's kind of music to my ears, but the primary thing that I am looking for is specific guidance, which NIST has promised, along the lines of how do we govern cybersecurity programs. I was at the workshop number 3 at NCCOE in late December and late September, that is. And one of the things that was discussed was governance and how mature is your company. And interestingly, very few entities are actually mature in terms of the people, process, and tech that they have as it relates to cyber. And that is, frankly, based upon my experience at least, the number one concern as it relates to being able to harness cybersecurity, being able to get an understanding of your data flows and how things stream or not stream in and out of your organization. And that is governance. What are our policies and procedures like? Who do we have when there's an IT security incident in terms of backup or augmenting individuals that can help the primary CISO get through that week or two or more of hell? These are very fundamental things that I feel like we oftentimes don't think about. Many of you, of course, are being very proactive and drilling on this and talking about this. But I could tell you that, unfortunately, it's still the basics that a lot of individuals are missing out on in regard to how prepared they are. And, oh, by the way, we forgot that our phones were actually VoIP and dependent upon the network. So that said, there is my update.
Thank you so much, Lee. I will say you had actually some phenomenal questions coming up in the comments, and everybody that's kind of watching now, if you do have more questions for Lee, I would definitely reach out and let them know, because you have people asking about privacy, because AI is definitely blowing up. It's becoming huge. And of course, privacy becomes a concern. How are you stopping from inputting things? We also had people ask about the music industry and how, as you mentioned earlier, as an actor, kind of the synthetic creation of AI for that material in the music industry. So it's definitely some good questions over in the comments for you. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. And so I am happy to answer anything by email or LinkedIn, or let me know what you're comfortable with my disclosing here. And I'm happy to just say, hey, folks, just send it to me and I'll definitely get back to you today.
No, absolutely. Lee, as always, it's a pleasure to get on your insights, really AI and just the legalities of cyber legality. However that word works is honestly awesome every single time. And I know I learn a lot. Everybody, it's honestly approaching that time we've got to spend, almost an hour together. I know I've enjoyed it, that was the most, getting on here and just kind of talking for a while. As mentioned earlier, just sharing experiences. We all have tons of experiences. It all comes from a large, varied background. People just starting, people that have already been in the field for so long. As I said earlier, I'll be at CDI December 11th to December 16th. If you're there, reach out to me on LinkedIn, shoot me an email, however the case may go. Love to sit down and talk to you. There's tons of opportunities there. We have Hack that's coming up later this month. We have the New to Cyber Summit coming up at the beginning of next year. I highly encourage you to take a look at that. Pat, it was phenomenal having you here. Tony, absolutely phenomenal here. The Kim, it was great to have you here. It really is just a pleasure getting everybody together. Just kind of let everybody know that next week we will not be here. We will be back November 28th to come back on. I can't tell you what the topic is yet, but it's going to be an exciting one. But no, we are taking off for the Thanksgiving holidays here in the US. I hope that all of you who celebrate, whatever it is you celebrate this week, have an absolutely amazing time. I've enjoyed it. If you have any questions for me, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Twitter, X, YouTube. I honestly, I rarely say no. If you have a question, I will do my very best to kind of get you that information and really just kind of find out what all we have that can help you be successful. And when it comes down to it, I know my whole thing is to see everybody successful. Sands' whole thing is to see everybody successful. All we kind of want is everybody to just be great. Chinwei, thank you for joining us. Everybody, Hugo, thank you for joining us. There were so many people. Julius, thank you all. Peggy, it's awesome to have you here. We had people from North Carolina, Charleston, just up the road. I really do hope to get a chance to see you, if not here again on wjai Infosec, at one of our many, many, many events. It really has been awesome.